Entregue calidad. Exija calidad.
Televisión argentina de calidad. Clase Ejecutiva. El programa televisivo argentino con certificación de calidad ISO 9001-2008.
Una producción Nova Patagonia.
Buenas noches, bienvenidos a Clase Ejecutiva. Uno de los exámenes y dictámenes más importantes de la geopolítica hoy, que escuchamos casi todos los días, es que la gran apuesta de desarrollo está en el continente africano. Y justamente vamos a hablar con un joven líder africano, de esa África nueva. Ahora ustedes dirán, ¿ese joven líder africano quién es? Justamente tiene un legado muy importante, el legado de uno de los hombres más importantes de la historia contemporánea. Lo vamos a ver después de los títulos de Clase Ejecutiva. Buenas noches, señores, de nuevo, y estamos hoy con un programa extraordinario porque hemos invitado, les decía, a un joven líder africano, nada menos que Ndaba Mandela, que es el presidente de Africa Rising, de la Fundación Africa Rising, y también es el nieto de Nelson Mandela. Ndaba, thank you for coming. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
El licenciado Ndaba Mandela es graduado en Humanidades en la Universidad de Pretoria con orientación en Ciencias Políticas y Relaciones Internacionales y cuenta también con formación en Management. Empresario en la industria del entretenimiento y la publicidad, Ndaba es un hombre apasionado realmente por África, su continente, su gente y el futuro de ellos. Trabaja para involucrar con su participación a jóvenes y a la gente en general para que logren ser artífices de su propio destino, transmitiéndoles el concepto de que, según sus propias palabras, juntos estamos de pie, divididos nos caemos. And you came to Argentina to participate in a conference about entrepreneurship. And what defines an entrepreneur, in your opinion?
In my opinion, typically a person who's defined as an entrepreneur is, traditional sense, a person who starts their own business. So a person who studies the market, identifies the gap, and raises the funds and takes risk to try and create a successful business.
Does it apply to, to business only, or perhaps to the society in general terms? I mean, could be an approach to life?
It can be an approach to life. I think, obviously, nowadays you have new definitions of entrepreneurship. You have entrepreneurs in the social as well in the political space. And I think that has more to do with people who are passionate about creating change within the society. So people who, like myself, who have started their own foundations to address some of the social challenges, those are also known as social or political entrepreneurs.
So leadership is contained already inside the concept of entrepreneurship.
Definitely, because entrepreneurs take risks. I think that is one of the biggest things, As a leader, there's nothing guaranteed. It's about consistent hard work and, being at the forefront,
Could we say that your grandfather, Nelson, has been an entrepreneur in terms of service, taking risks for the people?
I can definitely define him as an entrepreneur. A lot of people don't know, but at the beginning of apartheid, when my grandfather, and his colleagues, Walter Sisulu, started the ANC Youth League, a lot of people did not actually had the courage to actually stand up against the apartheid regime. But my grandfather and his colleagues believed that they had to fight for their rights and fight for opportunity and they did so. And over the years, only then did other people start joining the movement.
Everybody realized.
Yeah.
I understand, and I think that the case of your grandfather is the case of the, I mean, any leader in the history of mankind. And what are the main landmarks do you think your grandfather Nelson has left for you?
Well,
personally talking.
Personally, yes. Well, my grandfather is he brought me up as quite strict. If I tell a story, basically, when I was still young, I remember I was quite careless and I lost a jersey for the second time. And so I came home and I was quite scared to tell him, but I did, and he was very angry, and he made me go sleep outside. And
during the winter?
During the winter, and he got the lady to send me a blanket outside. And 2 hours later, you know, when it started getting cold, he called me inside. And he said, never do it again, otherwise I'll really make you sleep outside. So those are the kind of values, you know, very disciplined, you know, very much entrenched in the values of people, valuing people. He's a very compassionate person. So no matter which background you come from, age, or the status, you know, of society you come from, he really is a person who really loved, you know, people. And of course, in terms of the country, you know, you talk about reconciliation, nation building. So those are also very important parts of his legacy. But for me personally, I think it would be always believing in yourself, doing right, and standing up for people that did not have the opportunity to do it for themselves. Actually,
our today's show, I titled it "The Legacy," because upon under the light of what you said as your grandfather's legacy, to you personally talking, do you feel any additional responsibility towards your country, your people, your continent, I mean in terms of service to them?
Well, I think personally, I feel that a person in my sort of position, a person who's had the opportunity to go to university, a person who's had the opportunity to work in different fields from politics to finance, it's up to them to make the choice if they want to make a difference. And because I grew up with my grandfather since '93, I've lived with him. He has very much imparted a lot of his characteristics and values onto me. So I feel that it's very important to actually do what you can in society. So through education, whether it be, you know, our culture, building the economy, and, you know, those are the kinds of things that I really want to contribute.
For such a purpose, you created a foundation, Africa Rising.
That's right.
What are its main activities and objectives?
Well, you know, how Africa Rising was actually born was because through me traveling through different countries around the world, I realized that people do not know much about Africa. So our primary goal was to change the image Africa has in the international market. So we thought the best way possible to actually do that would be to start with African youth, the African people themselves. And so we decided that by us building and instilling a sense of pride and confidence in young Africans, we would be able to therefore, you know, build education, give entrepreneurship and positive leadership development, as well as celebrating our culture, our unique culture. Because, you know, if you look at our history, you look at the apartheid regime, what it was very instrumental in doing was making sure that the black man mentally does not have the same belief in himself.
Yeah, a lack of self-confidence.
Exactly. So they broke him down. So this is what our goal is to instill and uplift the pride and confidence in being an African, because we come from a generation that said, if you're black, you're not able to do like.
We have to go to a break, commercial break, if you allow me.
Yes.
But I would like to say a reflection. Perhaps hope is the last thing to lose. But dignity, we die with it. Vamos a una pausa y enseguida volvemos con más El Legado, aquí, en Clase Ejecutiva.
El laboratorio transnacional de origen argentino, líder en salud, performance y productividad animal.
Llegó el momento de llamar a la mejor nafta de YPF por lo que es. Premium, la mejor nafta de YPF.
La industria alimentaria argentina tiene un proveedor líder, el bahiense. Materias primas, aditivos y químicos para la industria alimentaria. www.elbahiense.com.
Estamos con Ndaba Mandela, licenciado Mandela, que es el presidente de la Fundación Africa Rising, joven líder africano con un gran futuro y nieto del famoso expresidente y premio Nobel de la Paz Nelson Mandela. We were talking about dignity, and you mentioned also other values as sacrifice and discipline that your grandfather taught you.
Yes.
But under the light of the history, the story of your grandfather, the experience you had in your family, the stories you have heard personally, which is almost unique, I mean, do you really think there is real possibilities to make a better world?
Definitely. Definitely. You know, I think the first step to achieving anything is believing that you can make it. So, you know, if we look at their history, if we look at my grandfather, when they started fighting against apartheid, a lot of people did not believe. They did not have hope. It was a dream, basically. You know, it starts off as a dream. And eventually, when you work hard, it can become a reality. So for me to give up hope is already you're losing half the battle. You know, so you have to start off with hope. And definitely, if you look at the development of our country and as well as the continent, there's definitely hope. I mean, if you look at countries like Libya, Egypt, Tunisia, these are countries that were ruled by a single you know, person for many years. And now you have people, you know, organizing themselves because they want democracy. So definitely there has been some improvement on the continent. I mean, obviously you have a few special cases which are still challenging, somewhat troublesome, but I think on the whole, in general, I think the African continent have been moving in the right direction.
What do you mean when we say, what do you imagine when you say a better world? What kind of world? What type of world?
Well, firstly, you know, being a South African and having the history that we have, I think the first fight that my grandfather fought was freedom, you know, physical freedom. So they broke the physical chains. And now the new battle for the new generation, I think, is economic. It's an economic fight. It's the way you think, the way you see yourself, your identity. And that is what is very important. Because, like I said, we come from a history where they were taught that if you're black, you cannot become a lawyer. If you're black, you cannot be a scientist. If you're black, you know, you can only be a mechanic and fix engines or fix toilets. So now, what we're looking at is building a new generation of proud Africans who want to develop their people. So, for example...
Excuse me. Your grandfather broke the roof.
Yes.
Your grandfather broke the roof, man.
He broke the roof,
yeah.
You know, but he hasn't reached the ceiling yet.
You could.
So, yes, of course, you know, we constantly have to challenge ourselves to achieve better, you know, for the benefit of next generation. I think a lot of people, especially leaders, if you look at presidents across the world, they are very limited because they know that they have 5 or maybe 10 years, you know, 2 terms. So they don't ever look at creating a legacy that will last for the next generation.
That's right.
Because they want to see their work when they live, when they are alive, you know. And I think that is what is going to be different about the Africa Rising Foundation and our goals that we want to achieve is that we know that what we're building now, what we have started building now, may not be necessarily achieved in our lifetime, but we have to continue laying the path for future generations to come.
That's very important. That's very important because you're right. I mean, almost all politicians are concerned about their period,
yeah.
and that's very limited.
Yeah.
What are the main challenges of Africa today, of South Africa, to be more specific, in your opinion?
Like I said, you know, South Africa is one of the most unequal societies in the world. So you have a minority, small group of people who have large amounts of wealth, and you have 50 to 60% of the population which is living in poverty, you know, under the poverty line. So I think one of our main challenges is to actually make sure that we create enough sustainable development in terms of economic growth. So that would be obviously creating a larger middle class, you know, people who are able to afford a holiday once a year, those kinds of things. So that's one of our main challenges. And of course, the legacy of apartheid has not been completely eradicated. So, you know, although the situation now is much better, there are still pockets, you know, especially places like Western Cape, which is in Cape Town, which have still the race is not completely over. And you even have another place called Oranjezig, whereby the Afrikaans people decided that this will be their area and they do not want to mix with black people. And I'm talking, you know, it's 2011 now, you know. Where is the progression? Where is the development? So these are small things that we're still fighting. So I think the biggest challenge is economic growth.
Economic growth.
Yes.
Do you think, I mean, what are your feelings about Argentina presently? You spent some days here. So do you think, is there anything to do together?
Yes. Because I've been in Cordoba.
I am from Cordoba.
Oh, you're from Cordoba?
I am from Cordoba.
Oh, nice. I must say, it's a very beautiful city.
Thank you.
The people are friendly, very warm. And I came to Argentina to speak at the FIE conference as one of the main speakers, which is a conference on entrepreneurship. And they take children from about 15 different countries from around the world.
Right.
So this was an excellent experience. But for me, the most positive and really light sort of good thing that I saw out of Argentina was the education system. The education system, when you look at the national university, you know, they're going to school almost for free.
Yeah.
And they have more than 100,000 students in one university.
Yeah.
And they have several universities. So I think this is definitely, you know, a place that South Africa and Argentina could definitely share and exchange, and we could learn, you know, from Argentina about the education system.
And perhaps we could learn a little bit about, some concepts about sacrifice and discipline in leadership. Could you allow me to go to a commercial break?
Yes.
Okay, so vamos a la última pausa y enseguida volvemos con el cierre de este hermoso programa con el señor Ndaba Mandela aquí en Clase Ejecutiva.
En Argentina todavía queda gente buena. Electropelva, un equipo de 100 personas a su servicio. Materiales eléctricos e iluminación para hogares, industrias, construcción, comercios e infraestructura. www.electropelva.com.
En Santiago del Estero, lo importante se vuelve urgente. Por eso seguimos sumando, tomando decisiones clave, construyendo un presente más confiable a cada paso. Ya promulgamos la Ley de Promoción Industrial para beneficiar en serio la inversión y el crecimiento. En Santiago ya estamos cambiando y se nota. Gobierno de Santiago del Estero, por una nueva provincia.
Televisión argentina de calidad. Clase Ejecutiva. El programa televisivo argentino con certificación de calidad ISO 9001-2008.
Bien, invitamos al señor Mandela a cenar a Cetebaco, Agüero 2157-4808-0021, www.cetebaco.com.ar. Very good Mediterranean food. Very good. Almost like in Jabber. Almost. Ndaba, what do you think about leadership? What's leadership?
Well, for me, leadership is defined by a person who cares more about, developing and assisting people than putting himself in the limelight. People like Gandhi, people like Martin Luther King. Those are the people that really fought to create opportunities for other people. So for me, a leader is someone who is able to influence people, in a positive way. Not somebody who dictates and forces people. Yes.
I wrote an article about leadership and the difference between leadership and what I call narcissarchy. They govern, or they do everything just for themselves.
Yes.
And so you're describing a sort of sense of transcendence. Otherwise, you cannot be a good leader.
Yes.
Do you think so?
No, I think so, definitely. Before I came, I had the opportunity to have lunch with my grandfather and Ahmed Katrada, which is one of the comrades of the liberation movement, ANC. And they told me a story which I really was quite amazed. And it's basically about how my grandfather was defending 300 women against this white prosecutor. And they saw him one evening outside of court, and he was intoxicated, and they decided, hey, this is our opportunity, we're going to grab him, because as you know, at this moment things were very tense.
Yeah.
And we're going to grab him and we're going to destroy him. And they took him, and they were going to take pictures of him, because the first thing he said to them was, oh, please take me home, but can you get me a black woman? So this was something they were very shocked, that a white man during apartheid would want a black woman, but obviously undercover. And they took him, and they had the opportunity to sort of get rid of him. And they went to my grandfather to say, listen, we've captured this man who is prosecuting you in the case against 300 women. Can we have the permission to get rid of him? And my grandfather said, no, I want you to take this man home immediately. Do not do anything to him at all. And whatever evidence of pictures you have of him, destroy them.
Cancel them.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And that is what leadership is about, you know. Even when people are suffering, dying, brutalized, you know, being killed by the police and the apartheid system, our leaders decided that they would not do the same.
To keep the way.
Yes.
To keep the way.
Because they had a bigger picture, you know.
Unos regalitos, señor director, por favor.
Eurotime Outdoor Watches. Relojes deportivos con funciones adicionales para todos los deportes extremos.
Agrofarma, el main sponsor de Clase Ejecutiva.
Ndaba, looking, into the far future, what do you want your landmarks, your own legacy for your own children and grandchildren want to be?
Well, as you know, in the Africa Rising Foundation, we talk about instilling pride, dignity, and confidence in young Africans. So one of the things I want to see in Africa is Africans traveling more in Africa, you know, because we have the perception that it's always better to go to Europe or America. But actually, you should start right next door or across, you know, because you'll find some of the most amazing things on the African continent. So I want to see more trade happening in Africa. I want there to be a situation whereby if I'm a member of Africa Rising and I go to Buenos Aires, I can contact other members of Africa Rising and they would be able to show me Buenos Aires, share the culture of the Argentinian people, you know, because we all want to contribute in the development of Africa, which will create a much more stable world altogether, you know, and lessen the exploitation and the oppression that's happening. So these are the kind of things I want to see for the next generation.
Well, I thank you really very much for your presence, your message. It's been a pleasure and an honor. And perhaps we'll see again in South Africa or here.
I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity to be here. It was an honor.
Thank you very much. Nos escuchamos mañana a las 17 en Radio Palermo y nos vemos el próximo jueves aquí, en Clase Ejecutiva.